Welcome to Reunity. It's lovely to see you here today. Celebrating with us. Celebrating with us on the last day of Black Philanthropy Month. We are delighted to welcome Dr. Jackie Bouvier Copeland, founder of Reunity and the Black Women Give Back Awards, Black Philanthropy Month, and the Women Invested to Save Earth Fund, with Innovation and Climate Impact Enterprise supporting founders in Africa, Australia, Brazil, the Caribbean, India, and the US. Jackie is a seasoned social and environmental justice leader, an artist, a cultural anthropologist, a technologist, a history maker, as recognized in the US Congressional Record. Her life's work has been to empower African descent funding in all of its forms, as seen by Black Philanthropy Month, now celebrated in 60 countries, as a great testament to that. Let's welcome Dr. Jackie Bouvier Copeland.
Greetings, everyone. And I know this is an international event, so I won't say good morning. It's just, I'm delighted to have you here. I also want to thank Kula for that kind, generous introduction. The voiceover is being done by our dynamic producer who's been working with Black Philanthropy Month for 13 years, Kula Adi. I'm so excited to be here with you today. I always feel like a proud mama in these events because we're trying to accomplish several goals. We're closing yet another fantastic Black Philanthropy Month season. I seriously cannot believe some days that this dream, which came to me 23 years ago, has become a reality. So really delighted to be here. Today, we're closing Black Philanthropy Month, as we typically do, by honoring dynamic women, Black women funders from throughout the world who represent the best in our culture of giving and community finance, including venture funding and social investment. In addition, we're also here to kick off the annual giving season. Black Philanthropy Month has sort of unofficially become worldwide the start of the Black giving and fundraising season each year. So we're closing the month but beginning our year-round activity. Today is also the United Nations International Day for People of African Descent. And it's very important to our history because I was in part inspired to found Black Philanthropy Month when the United Nations created first its International Month for People of African Descent, and soon thereafter, the International Year for People of African Descent. As Black Philanthropy Month founder, my vision has always been to raise awareness of the great past of our philanthropy, but to also mobilize the entire Black giving and community finance world to make our funding more powerful and equitable for a better future for our people everywhere, for all humanity as well as the planet that we share. My Black Philanthropy Month vision could not have been real without the leadership of Black women. It is part of our culture to give. It is part of our identity to give time, talent, treasure, voice, and everything we have to create a better future. Every Black woman funder I've ever met has been a futurist by definition, refusing to accept the challenges and the crises of the times as their reality. literally shaping the history of our societies and the future of the world. In fact, the name Reunity is not only the name of the rewards program, the awards program, the Black Women Give Back Awards program. It is also a reference to several other aspects and visions for Black Philanthropy Month. Number one is an homage to all of the diverse, mostly Black women from around the world who took up the mantle as I had this vision and helped me create Black Philanthropy Month, helped me make it real. This really is our collective achievement, and it started as early as 2000. It also is a reference to the need for us to constantly work across the diversity of Black people, not just in the US, but across the world, to build a global economy of giving and mutual support and shared consciousness to address the challenges facing us and all of humanity. I want to congratulate all of the honorees. You're our fourth cohort. We have honored 40 women now as Black Women Give Back awardees, uplifting the often invisible work of our women leaders in changing the world. Together, we will accomplish 5 goals today. We're going to celebrate you, the honorees. We're going to hear words of wisdom from several of our honorees in a panel moderated by our esteemed philanthropy scholar, leader, and economist, Dr. Una Osili, Associate Dean at the Lilly School of Philanthropy at Indiana University in the USA. In addition, you'll hear from experts specifically in Afrofuturism. Black Philanthropy Month has always had a futurism element. I'm a trained futurist. Much of our culture is about what's wrong with our communities, and I've always tried to uphold what is right with our communities and what we can build on. So you will hear from Trista Harris, and you will hear from an Afrofuturism leader in Brazil about how we can take the work we do and, despite the challenges of the time, craft a better future. You'll have a hands-on opportunity to help Black Philanthropy Month co-create Afrofutures of Giving, our theme for this year, because we will be asking you throughout the program to take this opportunity of this convening to actually answer the Afrofutures of Giving survey, a really important tool that we are sharing so that at the end of this Black Philanthropy Month season, we have a collective and geographically based set of visions, shared visions that we can use as we start our strategic planning back in our organizations and companies. And finally, I will close with some important updates about Black Philanthropy Month and what comes next. I also want to recognize all of the partners we're lucky to have here with us today. Toya Nash Randall, who is a dynamic founder of Voice, Vision, and Values, and is collaborating with us on the presentation of this program, and next year will become the leader of Reunity, Black Women Give Back. And she's also one of the inaugural awardees. Also want to recognize Floyd Jones, who's the founder of Back Black Movement and a dynamic philanthropy leader in his own right. And you will hear from him about our partnership today. Of course, all of our sponsors who have made this work possible, the WISE team, including Kula and also Yamalith Aguilar, one of our senior consultants who's been with us for many years. All of our speakers, our outstanding selection committee, who actually waded through 200 pages of nominations to help us identify our dynamic group of honorees today. And of course, all of our awardees and all of you for being with us today. We will leave the platform open at the end of my closing remarks for those of you who want to stay and network and socialize, because one of the outcomes of our work is always a broader network and stronger community of Afro-descendant philanthropists and funders working across the world. We are the future of Black philanthropy. We are the future of our communities. And it's wonderful to have you here today as we embark on this journey together, no matter what comes in our societies, to ensure that Black women and our people have the right to pool our intellectual, financial, cultural capital as a human right to change the planet for our communities and all people. Thank you.
And thank you, Jackie, for your kind words and all of your work that you've done for us. We'd like to remind you to be sure to follow us and share your BPM 2024 experience online. Here in the chat, we have some words that you can add. I am Reunity, the Black Women Give Back Awards, to close the Black Philanthropy Month 2024 and open the year-end Black fundraising and giving season. You also have access to the link here in the chat. Now, we are fortunate to have our first BPM Futurist in Residence, Trista Harris, founder and president of Future Good. Trista is an award-winning leader and author and trusted partner, helping convene the world to strengthen our capacity of communities to build better futures. Trista will share some tips on how to use our Black Futures Funding Survey and incorporate the findings in your strategic planning. So as you listen to her tips, please open the survey and use this time as an opportunity to answer it so that this year, BPM results will have a common vision that we can all use in our fundraising and giving strategies.
Here at Future Good, we help visionary leaders build a more beautiful and equitable future. So I'm really excited to collaborate with Black Philanthropy Month Worldwide this year on its first ever, as their first ever Futurist in Residence. Our goal is to help donors and venture investors use the tools of futurism to make funding and capital access more powerful and more equitable. My specialty is backcasting, which is a set of tools that helps you envision your ideal future and then create the path that it takes to get there. The world is changing really quickly and the problems that you face are complex. And so futurism tools help you chart a path to the future that you want instead of the path that you fear. We've contributed to Black Philanthropy Month's Black Funding Future Survey, which is a really powerful tool to help you deepen your futurism skills and to convene our entire movement towards actionable future visions that you'll be able to use in your strategic planning. The survey is also a way for you to evaluate any BPM 2024 initiative that you're participating in. Please use it at your August 2024 events to help evaluate and improve our work. Also, the survey allows you to suggest a theme for Black Philanthropy Month of 2025. The link to the survey is on the screen and it's on the BPM website. As you answer the survey's visioning questions, here are some tips to ensure that you're truly leaning into your best future thinking. First, this is your opportunity to dream big. If you want to have big impact and you want your giving to be transformative, what's going to be different in the world as a result of you having this big picture vision? The next is for you to describe what you want to have happen instead of what you would like to stop. It's much easier to build than to focus on what you don't want to have happen. I'd encourage you to be reflective about your present activities, which ones will lead you directly to your ideal future and which ones are misaligned, and then adjust your work accordingly. The resulting global and regional future visions are going to be analyzed and shared back to the field during the final quarter of this year, just in time for your New Year's strategic planning. As your organization, and if your organization needs any help converting it into an actionable strategic plan, Future Good is here to help you. That is our core work, is helping people develop pictures of the future and develop the strategy to get there. And you can reach out to us at www.wearefuturegood.com. Just remember, the future isn't a scary thing that's coming towards us. We create it every single day with the decisions that we make. So today, thank you for answering the Black Funding Future Survey, and thank you for all that you do to create a more beautiful and equitable future.
Thank you, Trista, and thank you all for your contributions to the survey and your insights on using it to envision better futures. Black Philanthropy Month has always celebrated our past while advancing our future, not just in the USA, but worldwide. And so we're very happy to have a reflection from Morena Maria, founder of Brazil's Afrofutures Institute and one of our most promising next generation leaders. Brazil has the world's largest Black population outside of Africa, and Morena will share her thoughts on the role of Afrofuturism in promoting racial equity in Brazil. Morena Maria is the mother of Ayo, a writer, researcher, specializing in Afrofuturism, and is the founder of the Afrofuture Institute. She's a speaker with 2 TEDx talks, served as a project curator, and as a cultural mobilizer at the Rio de Janeiro Municipal Department of Culture. She was a columnist for O Globo newspaper and is a columnist for Isto é Mulher magazine. Since 2021, she has worked as a parliamentary advisor at the Rio City Council, formulating public policies to combat racism and ensure the rights of children and adolescents.
Hello, my name is Morena Maria, and I am the founder of the Afrofuture Institute from Brazil. I am a mother, a writer, and researcher specializing in Afrofuturism. My work is dedicated to exploring and uplifting the rich history and future potential of Black Brazilian communities, with a particular emphasis on the leadership of Black women. At the Afrofuture Institute, we are focused on reimagining the future of Black communities in Brazil through the lens of Afrofuturism. Our work is rooted in the traditions and legacies of those who came before us, and we seek to create spaces where Black voices and stories are centered, celebrated, and empowered. By connecting our African heritage with the contemporary culture, technology, and social justice, we aim to inspire future generations of the Black leaders. To understand Afrofuturism in Brazilian context, it is essential to look back at the ancestral spaces of Black socialization, such as the samba schools. In the post-abolition period, samba schools were much more than just culture hubs. They were vital spaces where Black people could access Afrocentric education, healthcare, employment, and opportunities to preserve our culture. These were places of resilience and creative, founded by women like the Yalorixás. We say Yalorixás and Samba aunts, who played a crucial role in building and sustaining our communities. For me, Afrofuturism is not just a concept. It is embodied in the practices of these powerful women who created these spaces from which I come. The Yalorixás and Samba aunts were not preserving our past. They were also actively creating the future that I live in today. Their work laid the foundation for the vibrant and dynamic communities we see now, where Black culture and identity continue to thrive and evolve. As we look forward, it is important to recognize and honor the legacy of these women who envisioned a future where our culture, health, education, and livelihoods were protected and celebrated. The work of the Afrofuture Institute builds on their legacy, and I am committed to continue their mission by creating new spaces for Black voices and stories to flourish. I invite you all to join us in this journey to create a future where our communities are not only remembered, but are also empowered to lead. Thank you for this opportunity to share my work and the profound impact of Afrofuturism as it relates to the legacy of Samba schools and the women who shaped them. Together, we can build a future that honors our past and celebrates the possibilities of what is yet to come. Thanks.
Thank you so much. Muito obrigada, Marina, for bringing the view from Brazil. Certainly global or American progress for Black Philanthropy Month, Black philanthropy in general, and funding equity overall cannot happen without Brazil. So now we are pleased to circle back to the US, introducing our partner and the incoming chair of Black Philanthropy Month's Reunity, Black Women Give Back Awards. Toya Nash Randall, the brilliant and dedicated founder of Voice, Vision, Value, Black Women Leading Philanthropy, and an inaugural Reunity honoree. We receive hundreds of nominations from around the world, and a selection committee chooses exemplary community philanthropy and finance leaders from multiple countries who best represent the amazing, but often unheralded contributions of diverse Afro-descendant women funding better futures for people and humanity. Here's Toya.
Hello, I'm Toya Nash Randall, curator and catalyst of Voice, Vision, Value, Black Women Leading Philanthropy, where we believe in the power of recognition, the strength of community, and centering the profound impact Black women have in the field of philanthropy. I am delighted to accept the baton from Dr. Jackie Bouvier Copeland as the new chair of the annual Reunity Black Women Give Back Awards. I thank Jackie for her legacy, for her leadership, and her brilliance as the founder of Black Philanthropy Month and as the founder of Reunity. The annual Black Women Give Back Awards is the only initiative of its kind that showcases the contributions of Black women philanthropists from across the globe. It is an annual award that honors 10 outstanding philanthropists who are making a difference for Black women and girls globally through their investment of time, talent, and treasure. The award celebrates these extraordinary women who embody the spirit of generosity, leadership, and resilience. They're remarkable and have made significant strides in their fields and have reached back to lift others, creating pathways of progress for the next generation. Their contributions ripple through our community, inspiring change, fostering hope, and building a legacy of service. Voice, Vision, Value is honored to serve as the new home for Reunity and looks forward to continuing to highlight inspiring Black heroines of philanthropy from around the world for the many years to come. Today, we are proud to announce the esteemed honorees for the 4th Annual Black Women Give Back Awards, an award that is more than an acknowledgement. It is a testament to the enduring impact of Black women who give back. At Voice, Vision, Value, we are committed to celebrating, elevating, and documenting the historic impact of Black women in this sector. We are steadfast in our commitment to honor their profound legacy, their labor, and the brilliance and beauty of their authentic stories and experiences. Thank you for joining us today. Thank you again, Dr. Jackie, for everything that you've done. And thank you because we all know that when Black women give back, the world is better for everyone.
I create better futures by unapologetically placing power in the hands of incarcerated and formerly incarcerated women, trans, and gender nonconforming leaders. Our work ensures that every impacted leader is empowered to reshape their lives and their communities. Together, we are building a future where those most impacted by the system become the very architects of a just and liberated world.
I create better futures by inspiring our young people to read and lead. Through our Leaders Are Readers program, we help to promote reading and diversity in books. This is to address the reading crisis when 1 in 4 American children are unable to read. We're helping young people to discover joy in reading.
I create better futures by investing in the power and potential of our Black communities. Through strategic giving, collaboration, and advocacy, I strive to ensure that the next generation has the resources, opportunities, and support they need to thrive. It is my honor to contribute to a legacy of resilience, strength, and excellence.
I am Deaconess Adedoyin Beyoku Alase, the founder of Deaf Women Association of Nigeria. The association is for the advocacy and empowerment of deaf women and girls in Nigeria.
I help create better futures by serving as both a convener and a catalyst. I bring together both Black-led nonprofits and funders with the goal of them co-creating, collaborating to collectively transform their communities and change the trajectory of the lives of those they serve.
My name is Katrina Mitchell, and I'm the Chief Community Impact Officer at United Way of Greater Atlanta. I create better futures by building partnerships and collaborations that are centered on hope, healing, and care for children and families, by inspiring leaders to be change agents, and by leaving a legacy of leadership that honors my ancestors, honors the lived experiences of young people, and the villages that raised me.
I create better futures by working philanthropy guided by the power of our collective journey and ancestral wisdom to overcome barriers, seize opportunities, and embed the fight for equity in every space I enter.
Hi, my name is Tracy Green Washington, and I'm the founder of CoThink. I create better futures by inviting leaders, communities, and institutions into intentional and courageous spaces to grapple with complex issues of equity, systems change, solidarity, and co-conspiratorship in order to cultivate, lead, and drive some of the most transformational impact that creates just the right courageous energy, and I would even say synergy, to make what's invisible visible, to evoke new questions, innovation, partnerships, and new ways of thinking.
I'm Yolanda F. Johnson, and I create better futures by investing my time, talent, and treasure in my Christian faith, in women of color, women in general, those with disabilities, youth, and the visual and performing arts.
Welcome First of all, thank you, Dr. Jackie, for your vision, your brilliance, and for bringing us all together. Also want to thank our new chair, Toya Randall, for taking the leadership baton and running with it. And thank you to all the honorees today for your dedication and your transformational power in community service around the world in service of Black communities. Today, we would like to explore your giving stories. You all have remarkable journeys, and we want to hear more about those and get your thoughts on what we can do in this particular moment to create the Afro futures of giving. Today, this is the day that we start to not look back, but also look ahead. And in this year's Black Philanthropy theme, we are centering on Afro future. So let's start with just a bit of background about each of your journeys. First, I know that each of you wear many hats, and I'd love to hear how you got to where you are and what you'd love to leave our audience with today. So perhaps we can start with Tracy. Tracy, I've had the pleasure of meeting you in person and heard a little bit about your story, but I want our audience to know how wonderful you are and how you're creating the future in North Carolina and beyond.
Thank you so much. It's such a pleasure to be here with you. When I think about this introduction of talking about better futures for Black communities in this space, the thing that I would say about my role in philanthropy is that I've been explicit about playing two roles in this ecosystem of change. One is playing this awareness hat as a founder of a giving circle that is grounded in the principles of social change philanthropy around equity, being most proximal to those that are most proximal to the issues and also the co-architects of the solutions, right? Being clear about equity, being clear about sharing and building power together. And through that work at CoThink, we really have the unique opportunity to convene through this collective power, Black, Latin, AAPI communities and Indigenous community, most of us women, in service to addressing complex issues in our community, asking what if questions, and being clear that being proximal to each other is the medicine that's going to allow us to be able to fund and strategically fund the work and the support that our communities need. And that allows us to do this work around investing in healing. It allows us to do the work where we see each other and support each other around coaching and self-care, and really understanding what the medicine looks like in our community. And just really quickly, the second hat that I play is as a philanthropic serving organization through my consulting firm. And I know that it takes both of us. I've worked in traditional philanthropy for over 25 years, and we have to be holding both of those pieces of both traditional and non-traditional philanthropy as part of those pieces to allow us to win as a community.
Wonderful. Well, let's go to Yolanda. Yolanda, you also wear many hats. Tell us about your journey and how you're creating that better future for Black communities around the world. I have certainly benefited from your wisdom and your investment in Black women. Share how you got to where you are and what messages you have for the future.
Thank you so much for that, Una. And it's wonderful to see you here and to be in the presence of all of you, inspiring women today. My work exists at the intersection of fundraising and of philanthropy. And so I hail from Nebraska, and my lived experience is such that I have most often been the only one of a few, and very, very often the first. So it's been a trailblazing kind of life. And I wanted to make sure that that never meant that I always think abundantly. And so that's really what I strive to do as far as this work is concerned, getting both sides of that coin to speak well together, to function well together, to be more powerful together. And then I created Woke because as the first, I had another first trailblazing moment. And I said, you know, we still need the space for that unique lived experience. And so I was able to bring it together. It's become you can't make this up. It became organically a global network, a very powerful network of women of color, again, thinking abundantly and not with the scarcity mindset that can plague us as women of color, and even with communities of Black women sometimes, but building each other up And it's been a really beautiful path and road to grow that and to champion Black women and women of color and to move the work forward and to continue to do that each and every day.
Thank you. Thank you. We're so honored to be part of that story and that journey. And now let's come to you, Dr. Francois. You also are helping create change, starting in your own community and radiating out into the rest of the world. Tell us about your own journey, your story, how you got started at this work, and what that future looks like.
You know, I didn't initially see it as philanthropy. I was just involved in just being a part of community. I saw my parents doing work and helping, whether it was my mom doing gift baskets for seniors. I just saw Black folks around me doing good. And I think for me, I initially just ended up in the nonprofit space of wanting to do good, never owning the title of being a philanthropist. And it wasn't until I started working at the State Fair of Texas and being involved in the philanthropy work there and developing that, and then having the amazing opportunity to collaborate with Akila Wallace and Halima Francis on creating Heritage Giving Circle. And so to be in both of these spaces, one where I'm seeing traditional philanthropy not supporting our nonprofits and seeing these Black women, you know, using their own resources to make impact in community, and then Heritage coming alongside saying, we see you and wanting to support that. The way it shows up for me now is I've told Heritage, I'm becoming more seasoned. So I want some of the younger women to step up and they're doing an amazing job. And so I get to watch and witness the greatness of their work, but I'm also I have a nonprofit in which we are supporting Black-led nonprofits called the Reconciliation and Restoration Foundation. We just had an event last night where we brought funders together along with Black-led nonprofits, because what I want to make sure is that there's proximity and that our people have access to resources, not just financial, but each other. And so it looks like this work of creating these spaces for people to be able to benefit from the brilliance of one another, but also get these resources. And so I spend my days doing a lot of time partnering and brokering relationships, and that's been the philanthropic journey.
Fantastic. Well, you have already started to pave the way for the next question, which is asking about the future and looking ahead to the next 5 years. What is your ideal future for Black philanthropy and Black women as funders in particular? I feel like we should probably start with you, Dr. Booker, because you are working with young people and really trying to shift the conversation, shift the dialogue, and also shift the funding, #shift the funding, and put more power in the hands of Black women and young people too. So perhaps just share what your ideal future might look like, and then we're going to come to Yolanda next and Tracy.
I think you've given us a hashtag for a t-shirt that's a fundraiser right there. I think we've got the future. You know, I think it is the mentoring. I think that's huge. I think it's been, especially in the Dallas area, there have not been a lot of sisters who have been in the spaces to make decisions around funding. And so I would love to see how we get more women in these spaces, and Black women are able to determine what portfolios look like. But more importantly, I want to see us in governance. I think it's very important for us to sit at the tables of decision-making at these foundations. And so what does it mean for us to really think about pipelines of getting people to serve on these boards to determine where funds go? But in addition to shifting the power in that space, I think it's going to be important for us to think about what does it mean for us to own being philanthropists and creating our own. So when we don't see it happening, demanding that it happens in those traditional spaces, but also creating our own. And I would love to see how more Black women decide to create giving circles, but also think about how they serve, not just on nonprofit boards, but on these foundation boards to begin to distribute that power to our communities.
Fantastic. So you are, of course, working at the grassroots level, but encouraging us to even think beyond that, to sit at the table, to have a leadership position, and to be the ones making the decisions. That is such an important point. And that takes me right to Yolanda. Yolanda, you said something that I think all of us can relate to, which is in many spaces you are the first, but you've also, like our Vice President Kamala Harris said, you and her mom, I believe, said this to her, you may be the first, but make sure you're not the last. And you're building those intentional pipelines so that there will be many more people like you sitting at these tables and leadership decision-making positions. So let's turn to you and say, what is your vision for the next 5 years and what we can do to build the next generation of Black women as philanthropists and leaders?
Most definitely. Thank you for sharing that. It makes me think of one of my mentors, the late Dr. Olivia Hooker, who was one of the last survivors of the Tulsa Race Massacre and the first Black woman in the U.S. Coast Guard. And when she was asked, why did you do it? She said, somebody had to. And somebody has to keep doing it, right? To the point that you made. My vision is somewhat shared. I'm sure all of ours are shared and overlap and intersect. But with what Dr. Booker just mentioned, woke exists in a lot of my work and my consulting work, and with woke is to dismantle the philanthropist archetype. And so, and that's not just to say, that it doesn't need to be the certain archetype of the white man or woman, middle-aged, who is of a certain economic level, but also to dismantle that archetype so that we embrace our power and our identity as philanthropists. Your name need not be etched in the walls of great institutions to be a philanthropist. And so finding those different entry points and avenues and creating them. Sometimes I have a background in performing arts as well. It's how I got to philanthropy. And when you stop being a lifelong learner, when you think you already know everything and you don't surround yourself by that core network, you start to lose as well. So the collective giving, but so many different avenues where we can continue to trailblaze and keep things evolving. Two of those areas in particular, of course, I serve on many nonprofit boards, as I'm sure we all do, and that's a really important role to have. But I'm really embracing the philanthropic advisory role as well. That's something that I see so much traction in, and woke is going to be working to that end. So you can be on a foundation board, you can be in that particular decision-making entity, but you also can be advising philanthropists and be well trained to be able to do that. And then let's go a step further. And if we're going to really be embracing philanthropy, corporate boards. That's something that's very interesting to me, that has not even a glass ceiling, it's a brick ceiling. We have all these different phrases that we use for things, but it's all interconnected. And so I see the intersections between all of it. And I think that there's just so much room for opportunity that we need to grasp and support each other in grasping. And these are the areas that I'm really going to be paying very close attention to.
So double underscore what she said, as they say, when we think about leadership, it's every table. It is government, it's philanthropy, it's the corporate sector, and recognizing that to really create change, it's going to have to be across sectors. So public, private, nonprofits working together. And we need Black women in those leadership spots, and especially when it comes to corporate and foundation boards. That is where our presence is needed, and our voices are typically not heard. So lots of great points there. Now let's take it to Tracy. Tracy, I had the good fortune of, and the blessing really, of being able to meet you in your community and see how change is being made there. So share with us what you see in the next 5 years, what needs to happen, and especially the role of the next generation.
So I say ditto to everything that's been said before. And I have to say that I grapple with this particular question because in our community right now, we decided to pause. We believe that pause is action. And we needed to understand what was ahead of us for the future and what were the changing context of how we did philanthropy and how we showed up in solidarity and co-conspiratorship with community and each other to do this work. And so as I sat with it, there are a couple of things that came up. Definitely what Dr. Booker said in terms of next generation and really creating the spaciousness for them to lead, but also for getting us ready to step back and to sit alongside them through this process is so important. And I will say in our work with CoThink, we have set aside significant dollars for our young people to design a new process and structure for our giving that we haven't seen before. We have not been in this environment, and they and perspective that's very different. So really giving the spaciousness and walking alongside comes up for me. The other thing is for really to normalize that people take their position and their seat as philanthropists. And that at the center of that is being explicit about equity, particularly racial equity and systems change work and not backing down around and having a really solidified agenda that we're all signing on to relative to this. The other two things that's coming up for me is this piece around telling a more complete story. I don't think we tell our stories enough. And the stories offers the opportunity where there's strategic levers for us to move the work and move with each other in a different way and where the innovation is as well. And when I think about women, when I think about us, I see the screen, we're really in this place. I want to see an ideal like future that all of us, regardless of where we are, we're collaborating with each other. We're sharing, building, wielding power in a way that hasn't been seen before. That we're working across regions, we're working across issue areas, and it doesn't matter because what we have in common is community, our values, and that we are Black women, knowing that we are positioned in this moment to do really, really impactful work.
That is so inspiring. There's so many things that come to mind. One of them is a conversation we had about the broader definition of philanthropy that younger people are using. They're thinking about social movements as part of their giving. They're thinking about how they use their voices on their platform, testimonies, what we call it. And they're also thinking about the networks, how we build this collaboration. And that, of course, is this very well-known African proverb that says, if you want to go fast, go alone. If you want to go far, go with others. And we are interested in going far. And I think that means not just thinking about how we do the work now, but how we build on, of course, the success of our ancestors, but also bring those young people to have a seat at the table. And sometimes that means we have to step aside to create that space. And so I think there's a lot of intentionality in what you said around pause, and I am inspired by what you're sharing. And so our very last question, this is an election year, 2024. We're moving into the giving season, year end. And there's also a chance for all of us to take this opportunity, Black Philanthropy Month, to ask ourselves, what are we going to do? What is the powerful action that each of us can take? And that includes our panelists who are already doing so much, but all of you who've joined us today, our audience, our wonderful audience. What steps can we take? What actions can we take to ensure a better and more equitable future for Black giving, but also Black investment? Because as we think about how philanthropy is evolving, there is the giving component, but there's also the funding landscape, and impact investing is increasingly an important part of that. So I want us to give our audience, and this is that moment where we're moving from sharing our own reflections to looking ahead to the end of the year to say, what is your call to action? What would you like folks to do? What are the very specific actions all of us can take, keeping in mind the global context, but also our own national context in 2024. So maybe we'll start with you, Tracy, because you have spent a lot of time thinking about this, and you can give us some specific actions that all of us can take.
Thank you for the question. And I just, it's so meaty and so many layers to it. The first thing that comes up for me is that oftentimes, as we think about what we need to do going forward, we think we need to build new infrastructure. There's a huge giving circle movement that's already out there. How do we amplify and capitalize on it as it moves forward? I know for us, one of the things that we're building out is an endowment that's equitable, that is grounded in practices around equity, that doesn't duplicate dominant culture practices that create these inequities and keep us away from each other. But then I think there's this piece around us being in radical celebration. Yeah, we have to celebrate where we have been and remember, because there is medicine in the remembering, and also opportunities and relationships that we haven't harnessed and amplified as well. And I think the last thing that I would say as I think about the season going forward, we don't know what's ahead of us, but one of the things that I'm clear about is that as we do this work, we have to provide cover for each other. We have to make sure that we are caring for each other. But most importantly, we have to keep solid our relationships that are healthy, equitable, and positive as we move forward. Because this work, this space that we're entering into, is meant to disorient us and distract us from the work. But if we can ground in our relationships as we move forward and be clear about how we fumble towards repair with each other, because it will be needed, it will happen, and keep a focus on what our purpose is, a clear line of sight of what we want to accomplish for our communities, I think anything is possible. But I also want us to leave room to not make it so prescriptive, right? We don't know enough to know what it needs to look like. So how do we take this more emergent posture where we're walking alongside each other in trust to know that we'll figure it out, and we'll have notice, and we'll spot the patterns, and we'll be able to collectively build something and come up with the solutions that we hadn't thought about before.
Fabulous. So leave space for reflection to be nimble and agile and respond and be creative is, I think, the message you're sharing with us, even in these moments where it can feel like there's a lot that needs to be done and we need to move with urgency. But I think you're reminding us to be reflective and honor the work that's been done before us. So Yolanda, let's go to you. You, as you said, can see Nebraska, New York, you travel around the country, your network is one that is even increasingly global. What is your call to action to all of us today?
I would say be ready, because regardless of the outcome toward the end of the year, one of the single greatest steps backwards that we ever took as African Americans in particular, but the ripple effect was felt around the world for all Black people, was after the Voting Rights Act passed, was to say, whew, a lot of people said, okay, it's done, we're good. We were not good. We're still catching up from that in many different ways. And so just to remember to be ready. We will celebrate, and if we celebrate, we still have to be ready to take really meaningful action as our best authentic selves, whatever your values are, whatever is meaningful to you, and to continue to take real steps forward. Because we see also what happened to President Obama, in his second term, how so many different parameters can be put around you to try to thwart change and forward movement. And so we have to stay, I know I'm not, no pun intended, but that's why our organization is called Woke. I thought it was so clever with that one. Oh, we cannot fall asleep. We have to stay woke. We have to stay awake. We have to stay ready. And even if it, either way, you regroup, you take it all in, and then it's what can I do? What actionable steps can I do in my own life and my own philanthropy, having it redefined, dismantling the archetype in my own role and whatever leadership hats I wear, whatever tables that I sit, my best authentic self, what do I bring? And it doesn't have to be tons of things, but what is most meaningful where you can keep the momentum moving forward. And if we wipe our brow and say, yay, and we celebrate, let's do that too. And then the next day, let's get to work and let's keep working. And that's really just what I would encourage everyone to do. And that's what I've been encouraging clients and nonprofits to do with their year-end appeals. Be ready one way or the other. But you can't be sleeping on this work. It has to continue and stay wide awake.
Okay, so I am just going to kind of summarize so many of the points that you made here, because you're reminding us that this is a time where we cannot afford to be complacent. There's work to do. There's work to do. It's the end of the year, but it's also an important time. We can't forget the lessons of the past. We need to build towards that future. But then I think you're also reminding us that all of us have a role to play, but our own way of doing it might be different. That's the danger of a single story that the Nigerian author Chimamanda talks about. And for all of us to remember as we think about how we're going to activate support, our giving for the end of the year, our networks, our giving circles, harness all the talents that are existent in your community. And we need to also tell all those stories, because too often our contributions, I think Dr. Booker, you shared this, were not necessarily amplified. So we can play a role in amplifying each other's work, telling each other's stories, and really presenting a more comprehensive and complete picture. So I'm excited about the vision that you've laid out for us. And so this is a very great time to turn to Dr. Booker in terms of this, again, 2024, lots going on, giving season, our own contributions. What do you have to say to our audience?
You know, when I think about the 44,000 women who got on that call and started making things happen, I think we underestimate our power. And I think that's a very dangerous thing, that we've allowed the narrative of others to define who we are. We're a powerful group of people. And so I think it's important for us, a couple of things. One, I think we have to recognize the power of our social capital. I think we need to be fully aware that our networks, we have to mobilize and catalyze those networks to be able to make things happen. So that's one. I think two, it's important for us to understand, and Tracy said this about the pause. I think as people, we get the understanding of a comma and a period, but we don't apply them well in our lives. So when does it mean that we need to pause and have a comma to say, I need a break? And when do we say we need a complete thought to end and move on to something else? And I think we've got to be very clear about knowing how to use that, just like we do in a sentence. We got to know how to do that in our own lives and in our own communities. And then lastly, I think we have to recognize that this is a battle that is both local and systems. And so how do we make sure that we are operating in both, that we have to work with those local nonprofits, support them, sit on boards, give them vision? How do we push our local nonprofits and foundations to do this good work? But at the same time, there's a system that has to be addressed, and we have to be willing to play in both of those spaces.
Wonderful. So much to take away from what everyone has shared, but I'll just say that Dr. Booker reminded us again that in order to be effective, you need to learn how to say yes. You need to know how to say no to certain things. You also need to know when it's time to pause and go in a different direction. All of those things are important. Use your time, use your voice, use your resources wisely. I think that's the message you're leaving us with. And also know your power. I think this is a theme that we have to really embrace in this season. We are powerful as a community. We're powerful when we work together. And we are powerful because of the rich heritage that we have. We have a lot that we can build on. So I think no one on this call today, on this in this conversation, should leave not feeling, just feeling a little bit more hopeful. Take the strength of the women that you've just heard from today and continue to build on that. And we are already receiving some questions. So let me just try to see if I can start with the very first question that came in. And it is a question that comes from an audience member that has worked in higher education and philanthropy, especially with alumni. And she is considering her second act, which is coming up soon. Where can she find resources, especially if she wants to help make a difference within Black organizations internationally, and also supporting a growing number of Black expatriates, because we hear increasingly about this global movement where Black people are choosing to live perhaps in sub-Saharan Africa and the Caribbean, other parts of the world outside of the United States. So she is thinking about that next step. Maybe Yolanda, we'll have you jump in here because you know a lot about opportunities for women of color in fundraising and philanthropy.
Yes, so I'd be remiss if I didn't say one of the first stops I would make is over at Woke because we do have so many different resources to help people determine the best steps into making that second act a success. Thinking differently about your career, thinking strategically. We talk about career care in addition to self-care, and then just being with people in community and connecting with people around the world and across the country who might be good contacts to have about moving that forward. There's also the International Fundraising Congress and the Resource Alliance. We've been in touch. I've done some things with them, and they've been great partners from on a global level, from a global perspective. Lots of what's happening around the world, and they certainly care about Black women and women of color, and moving us forward wherever we are in the world. So I would start with that, and just I love the proverb that you mentioned before, because a lot of this really does happen in community. When I talk about Woke and our powerful network, sometimes I can't even remember the last time that I interviewed for something because we bring so many opportunities to each other as well. And so I think it's really important to do this in community, always ready for opportunity and being there for each other.
And can I
That's
add one here?
Tracy, please jump in. My apologies.
No, I apologize. I just want to add an additional resource. Sharon, I think that you would really enjoy connecting with AFI, which is the Association of Black Foundation Executives. They have membership both for those that are in traditional philanthropy, non-traditional philanthropy, and also in the nonprofit sector. And what you will find in that space is that you'll be able to touch and be with women that are working across networks, both domestically and internationally, that are doing a wide variety of initiatives, bodies of work. They also have additional supports too beyond just connecting you with people. They have a women's retreat that they do every year. They have fellowships. They have all these amazing opportunities that can give you, I think, multiple entry points into discovering what that next leg of your journey could look like. It's called ABFE. Susan Batten Taylor is the president, and they have an amazing staff and team that does this work.
Fantastic. These are all tremendous resources. I don't know if Dr. Booker wants to chime in, but I was also going to suggest that visit the Lilly Family School resource page. There's so many programs and opportunities there from a networking standpoint, and also courses that you can take if you want to work more on the international side and want to retool. We have a number of certificates and courses that you can engage with. So some of the resources are also offered through the Mays Family Institute at the Lilly Family School on Diverse Philanthropy. So I encourage you to check out some of those resources and certainly start to build that future. So you're describing a future for yourself, but also a future, a Black future for the rest of our community. So we're eager to support you alongside that work. I think Dr. Booker, any additional thoughts for our audience member?
No, you all did it. So thank you.
All right. There is one question that just came through that I'm sure is one that is a very timely and relevant one. I certainly hear this a lot from our, certainly our community members here in the Midwest, but around the country. Right now, there is a bit of a pushback, you could say, certainly here in Indiana, we see that in 2020, lots of excitement around funding equity, around funding Black communities. But in the last few years, there's been, you could say, some pullback in that area, taking some steps backward. And what our audience member is asking is, with the funding equity crisis, it's even a crisis where they're sitting, they need to focus on making it from payroll to payroll. How can an organization that's under-resourced, a Black nonprofit, make time to think about the future when they have to also focus on now? This is a great question. I don't know who wants to start first. Dr. Booker, would you like to jump in here?
Sure. I think one of the things that's important is, how do you use your board to be able to support you? I was having a call before this one with a young lady with a Black-led nonprofit. And here in North Texas, we do this huge giving day. And she was talking about how they don't get the kinds of funds. One, our organizations just don't have the relationships quite often to big funders because they're not in proximity. And so how do we make sure that we're using our boards to be able to do that work and making them accountable to helping us with that fundraising? I think nonprofits get so overwhelmed with trying to figure out audits and all these different things that they have to do to just, keep the doors open. And yet there are all these requirements that funders put on them. How do we make sure that we as a community are supporting these organizations well with our skill-based volunteering? And that's something I've been harping on, is we've got to bring our gifts and talents to these organizations. And so how do we help them by making ourselves available to give our talent to them and help with strategic planning, with forecasting? But what does it also mean to tap into corporate support that can also provide some of those resources as well? I think it's helping our nonprofits recognize that they don't have to do it alone, and that we can show up and show out to help them with the resources. So I want people to know that you have a board for a reason. And if your board isn't helping you do what needs to be done, then it may be time to consider getting some new folks on your board, because they really need to support you in doing this work well.
Wonderful points. I will just say that it's not, what you're describing is something that a lot of organizations are facing. It's not unique to your organization. I do agree the role of the board is critical. I will also say that this is a time, as you're having those conversations with funders, to think about unrestricted support and perhaps even building endowments. Those are critical areas that can help strengthen your work so you don't have to stay under-resourced. The idea is as we think about planning for the future, it's making sure that you have the resources that you need to succeed. So I certainly understand the pressures, but I encourage you not to operate from a scarcity mindset, as I think Yolanda said, but recognize that there are folks out there who want to support this work, even with the national environment, whether it's in Texas, Indiana, or elsewhere. But there is a core group of funders that's in it for the long game. And as you think about your work, make sure that you are communicating and finding those folks who align with your mission. That's critical. So let's come to, I don't know, Tracy, if you want to jump in here, because I think you have worked with a lot of organizations that are dealing with this.
Yeah, we're seeing it as a significant trend. Like historically, our communities, particularly those that focus on Black issues, have been under-resourced, but we're also seeing a spike in that. And one of the things that, and I think I'm going to say this, but I don't like it, but because I don't believe that we should own the labor of it. But there's a lot of miscommunication and a lot of misunderstandings about the space around equity and what people can do and can't do. And I think what we're seeing is huge course corrections where you have funders that are partners with us that are being really, really clear, which I love. Like, we're centering equity, we're doing this work, and we're strategically funding organizations, to organizations or philanthropic organizations that are outwardly funding, but internally trying to work through the resistance based upon the current environment that we find ourselves in, to whole organizations that have scrubbed their pages and of talking about equity and racial equity as we move forward. And so I agree, like really finding the places and the organizations that are most aligned and using your labor there. But you may also have to do some work where you're educating yourselves and helping them understand, like, you actually can still fund us. You actually can go deeper. There are some strategic ways that we can talk about it, and we can think about it that you both have covered, that I have covered, as well as we move forward. I think the other thing is, around this space, is one of the things that we've been really blessed about in terms of our work with CoThink is that reaching out to networks, particularly around young people who are thinking about their wealth and thinking about their work as a co-conspirator with communities of color, particularly Black communities, and seeing how you can leverage that in terms of those relationships to be able to have partnerships with them. And I give an example with CoThink. One of the things that we're using to launch with our giving our endowment is we got a grant from a young person who had been doing their work around structural racism and works with a broader network. And they gifted us $375,000 worth of Apple stock, right? We've also had people gift us stock. We take Bitcoins, we take them all. But there are opportunities where we can even think outside of the box in terms of what capital is, and then getting with a really strategic consultant and advisor who can tell you how you can maximize that alongside the traditional way that you have been able to capitalize your nonprofit organization.
And I co-sign on what everyone has shared, and if I can just add to this, often when we talk about being under-resourced, and I've seen this pendulum swing because Woke had a sibling organization called Allies in Action Network that we were working with allies to that end, and we've seen all of the fatigue that started to happen in April 2021 with the advent of the COVID vaccine. The pendulum swings. And so what I would just say is, in addition to the board, which is number one, totally correct, and all of your stakeholders, sometimes a scarcity mindset can appear in different ways that we don't realize that's what it is. And I have seen it appear as panic because there's so much good work to get done that organizations can stretch themselves so thin, and then you've got mission creep and all kinds of different things that are happening. Do what you do. Take care of yourself and take care of your mission and do what it is that you do. Be ready to pivot if you need to, but you don't have to do everything because no one can do everything. And that's why it takes all of us as a global, a collective and network to be able to get the work done. So when you're being really strategic and prioritizing and doing what it is that you do and fulfilling your mission, I've seen that be a really powerful thing. And it's related to pausing as well, pausing and reflecting, and really just focusing on what it is so that you can be even more powerful and successful with it.
Fantastic. There's so much wisdom in this room, this circle of honorees. There is one final question that just came in from the audience, and I think we have time to answer it, and it's an important one. It's a joyful one, and it's one that I think will leave us all really inspired. And it asks, why is a futures orientation so important for Black philanthropy? And I love this question. I'm going to start with Yolanda because she is in this line of work and really thinking ahead. Why is it so important for Black philanthropy to be forward-looking?
Because the future is right now. Really, it's, we think we're looking to the future, and we are, but life moves at such a fast pace. The good work continues at such a fast pace that to continue to think ahead, to continue to be creative, be intentional, be right next to, be a partner to the evolution of the work that we're doing in Black philanthropy, I think is very, very important, because if you're not, sometimes you can fall a bit behind or you can get stuck in different ways of doing things that don't allow us to pivot and to grow. And so I think that, knowing, we all know that we're not a monolith, but allowing that to go out into the world so that other people understand that, understanding the power that we have collectively, understanding our own individual power as well, but just knowing that from innovation and technology and AI, all the things that are out there right now, it's moving at the speed of light. And so you go at the pace that's comfortable for you, but we have to be thinking ahead because we have so much to think about. And I think that's also a way to stay more intentional and more intersectional and more powerful. When you can take that step back and really envision something, then you can, I'm a piecemealer by nature. And I say I work from wherever. So I can be walking on the beach and I have a great philanthropic thought. And that's Black philanthropy, right? That's thinking in the future, and giving yourself that space to do it. So I think it's important because it's moving so fast and we want to stay right there at that speed of light.
Wonderful. There's technology, there's the change in the economy, there's the geopolitical landscape. There's a lot for us to think about, but there are also a lot of opportunities, a lot of problems in our communities that we can be part of solving. Dr. Booker, why is it so important in this moment for us to be thinking ahead to that future for Black philanthropy?
You know, when I think about our ancestors and how they were wishing for us to have the opportunities that we have now, that we are standing on their shoulders, what a gift to be able to think about the future. And I think we need to see that as a privilege, because so often people do not have the opportunity to even dream. So for us to be in a space today to dream about what possibilities looks like is a gift. How do we steward that responsibly is something that I would really want to challenge people to think about. We don't have a choice. We have to think about what it can look like, because to Yolanda's point, we're in it right now. We are living in the possibility of what future could be. And so I would encourage everybody to continue to think about the narratives that we are telling and sharing about the future possibilities too, instead of seeing it as, oh my goodness, whatever could happen with the election. No matter what happens, Black folks have always survived and even thrived in some of the most oppressive situations, and we will continue to do so. This is now an opportunity for us to co-create, as Tracy says, to do something wonderful together.
I love that. Tracy, why is this future orientation so important? How can we leave our audience with this sense of possibility and progress and hope?
Yeah, what Dr. Booker said was just right on point. You know, we talk about systems change. One of the most powerful conditions around systems change is changing mental models. The stories we tell, the stories that we tell about others, the biases, all that muck that's that's a part of it. And so when I think about the future, I think one of the most things that we have to understand is that we have the power to shape it. That every strategic decision that we make, every intentional place we choose to do our work in, every place we choose to be courageous, we are actively knitting together a story and a puzzle about the future that we want to build together. And we have agency, autonomy, and power to do that. It's not happening to us. We are actively manipulating it, co-creating it, being architects of it as we move forward. And I think we have to embrace that every decision, strategic decision that you make within your spheres of influence, what equity choice point you make, you are making a decision that is crafting the future that we want for tomorrow.
Beautiful, beautiful. I think that was just a fantastic way to summarize the discussion today. We are powerful. We have the tools to build the future that we want for our children, for our grandchildren. And we can also take the baton that was handed to us, like so many of you are doing, and pass it on to the next generation. So big round of applause to our fantastic, incredible honorees. I hope that everyone here recognizes just how amazing these Black women are, and let us know how we can continue to help and support your work and take it to the next level. Happy Black Philanthropy Month, everyone. Let's continue this great work, and I'm going to turn it back over to our moderator. Congratulations to our honorees.
Thank you so much to our honorees, and thank you as well, Dr. Osili. As Jackie mentioned, Dr. Osili is an OG of Black Philanthropy Month and Black philanthropy in general, a scholar and a dean of research, yes, in international programs at the Lilly Family School of Indiana University. So we are just so thankful to you as well, that you're always ready to support, uplift, and engage our giving heritage and future. So thank you. Now, we are delighted to introduce Floyd Jones, who is BPM's Community Engagement Chair and the founder of Back Black. Floyd is a creator, coach, and community builder based in NYC. He also serves as the founder of Black Black, which is a multi-platform initiative that has raised over 1.3 million for 770 Black-led nonprofits. In his role as Director of Community and Partnerships at Give Butter, he supported the growth of the platform that now powers over 2 billion in donations annually. Throughout his career, Floyd has built social impact communities globally, raised over 40 million for grassroots orgs, and has spoken at over 100 conferences across America. He's been featured by ESPN, LinkedIn, Afrotech, Variety Wired. It's been sponsored by Nike, and now we have him here to speak at Reunity. Here's Floyd.
Thank you, Toya, Tristan, and Miranda for those inspiring words and helpful tips in creating the future. I am most proud to be a member of Black Philanthropy Month's Global Leadership Council and to serve as its Community Engagement Chair and leading the social media effort this year. The Back Black movement that I founded is inspired by Black Philanthropy Month and the fierce, powerful, fearless woman that is Dr. Jacqueline Copeland. Black and community giving overall is not just my profession and passion, but it's a part of my roots as an African American with parents from Sierra Leone. Considering both African Americans, both US born and internationally born, give about $23 billion a year, and the women fueling this movement are a part of a majority of that giving economy. I know from my experience in the US and in Africa and abroad that Black women are key to promoting not just the giving of money to strengthen our communities, but they give ideas, time, voice, strength, and hope to our people and broader society, making our visions of a better tomorrow become reality. Unfortunately, the generosity of Black women is not the dominant narrative worldwide. And that's why I love and am passionate about and will always promote the Black Women Gives Back Awards, because they tell the truth that Black women have always been and will always be positive leaders worldwide for our communities and all of humanity. Today, we will highlight 10 diverse leaders who exemplify the best in Black women's philanthropy and in community finance and innovation overall. They are not just from the United States, but also from Nigeria and Brazil, and because Black giving is and always will be global, just as Black Philanthropy Month has been from its inception 23 years ago. Thank you to all of the people who submitted nominations to help us select the leaders, and thanks to everyone here today to help us honor these astounding leaders. Before Toya and Dr. Jackie introduce the honorees, I want to recognize our sponsors and Global Council members. Without them, Black Philanthropy Month and this program would not be possible. You will find their names in the screen. We're eternally grateful for your leadership and all of your support. Toya and Dr. Jackie, I turn it over to you. Thank you.
Now we are excited to welcome back founder of BPM, Reunity, the Wise Fund, and also the singer and songwriter of our show's theme song, Ghosts of Our Past Echo, Dr. Jackie Bouvier Copeland. Jackie?
Hi there. I was worried that we might have a tech glitch, but what a wonderful, powerful, inspiring program. I am just delighted for the recognition of our 10 awardees, for Dr. Una's ongoing support, everyone who's
Jackie, I think we have lost your audio. Can you check on that? Let's try again.
Can you hear me now?
Yes, you got it.
Okay, sorry about that. But I was just sharing my inspiration and excitement for the discussion that we just had. What a promising future we have as a people with the leaders here in this virtual room and all of the networks that you're connected to throughout the US and worldwide. Just thanks for being who you are and for everything you do. I want to close us out with a couple of updates and a call to action for the times before we continue the conversation for those who would like to stay. First, I want to say that it has been an absolute honor of a lifetime to work in this philanthropy field for 45 years and to also lead or actually found and lead Black Philanthropy Month and Reunity as a volunteer for 23 of those years. This has always been work of my heart, work of my culture, work for my people, and I firmly believe in the capacity of everyone in this convening and all of our women and other leaders in this field to craft a future together that builds on the amazing philanthropic and social finance legacy of our past and our ancestors. And so the future really does start with you today, and you're all up to the task. I want to share sort of the new leadership direction for Black Philanthropy Month and Reunity. We've already shared that Toya Nash Randall, the founder of Voice, Vision, and Value, will lead Reunity, the Black Women Gives Back Awards program, starting officially in 2025. And this program is the beginning of that transition process. I want to really laud Toya for her excellent work as a new generation leader, telling the untold stories of Black women. And I'm delighted that this is an opportunity for her work to go global, because Black women are doing this future shifting work through philanthropy around the world, and we need each other, especially in these times. I've learned from my work in African and various indigenous communities that we have to, for our own personal sustainability, approach our work from a spiritual and a generational perspective. So for me, it's the ultimate sign of success to be able to have a baton to pass on to a new cohort of leadership. So in addition to Toya's taking on Black Philanthropy Month, I am most delighted to announce that the outstanding Floyd Jones, founder of the Black Movement, who you just heard from, will be the new international chair for Black Philanthropy Month, leading our global council, which is comprised of regional and subject matter representatives in Black philanthropy from throughout the world, and also ensuring that the August program, from identification of the theme, uplifting various fundraising initiatives that emerge around the world during Black Philanthropy Month, continuing our global funding equity initiative and pledge work, that continues and grows. And I will be there always as founder to support the work in some way. I'm very proud of both Toya and Floyd and want to congratulate both of them and ask you to support them as they take on this important next generation work of Black Philanthropy Month and Reunity. I will continue to strengthen the documentation of Black diaspora philanthropy and social finance innovation through my work at the Women Invested to Save Earth Fund, which has been the backbone organization for Black Philanthropy Month for the past several years. And I'll tell you what that specifically means. From the very beginning, as someone who grew up in a Gullah Geechee family in Philadelphia, very proud of my African American roots, and I've had the pleasure to live and work throughout Africa, especially Nigeria, and do this work throughout the Black diaspora for decades. I have always recognized that dreams require money. And I made a pact with the universe that if I ever made it, I would make it my life's mission to be a channel for equity, funding equity, and economic justice, which for me are the last frontiers of both the US civil rights movement, but also the liberation movements and the women's movement throughout the world. When I started in this field 45 years ago, we only got about 2% of foundation funding, less than 2% of venture funding, and that's still the case. In a place like Brazil, that's having an absolute racial equity crisis that is as bad or even worse than the US, where a Black youth is killed by police every 23 minutes, where Black women do most of the work in a nonprofit economy, but only receive 0.03% of foundation funding. We have to come together across our diversity within and beyond the United States to create a mutually supportive global Black funding economy. If they do not want to fund our dreams, if they do not want to fund our human rights, we need to figure out how to fund each other and keep each other alive. Black Philanthropy Month is the beginning of this dream of a global Black funding economy. I remember when COVID started, and you all, if you can rewind back to that horrifying moment in the US, when we realized that our communities and Indigenous and Latinos communities would be hit hardest with mortality rates. Initially, our governments could not get medications and testing to Black communities in the US. Rwanda in Africa was doing very well. I reached out to officials in Rwanda about funding COVID testing in the US. And there were some individuals willing to do that in developing kits. We have to think beyond our national boundaries, our ethnic boundaries, just like other communities do, to finally promote funding equity. We also have to think beyond traditional philanthropy. As someone, I think, in our very wise panel discussion just mentioned, I don't know if most of us realize that there is a $1.16 trillion social investment economy. And most of our communities, most of our philanthropists, leading capital access efforts in our communities have no connection to it. Let's get ourselves up to speed. Let's work with every Black or Afro-descendant business person in the world and develop a pact whereby we understand that it is our obligation to share whatever finances we have and develop reliable, trustworthy ecosystems to support each other through the dramatic crises, whether they are environmental, racial justice oriented, gender justice oriented, that will increase during our times and in the future. At the same time, that new opportunities increase. Let's be the people that keep access and education and knowledge accessible to our communities. Through the WISE Fund, I will continue to support our international work to advance Black philanthropy in Brazil through our Black Brazil campaign, and to promote venture funding that's fair and equitable, because our philanthropy cannot be strong unless our businesses are strong. And in fact, next year, WISE will be hosting a learning tour to Brazil, which has the largest Black population in the Americas. We cannot have racial equity and justice unless Brazil makes progress. The tour will feature its history, its culture, its philanthropy, its social finance traditions, and social justice opportunities. So look for that tour opportunity starting in Brazil, but throughout Africa and the global Black diaspora, designed in such a way that a significant part of any net profit goes to support our grassroots giving organizations throughout the world, including the United States. Also, I will continue my work in the musical arts. I've been a closeted musician since I was a child, but let's just say the feast or famine model did not work well in my family. And not just as a performer at the WISE Fund, we're working to create a fund that will tap into our rich creative and sports industry to produce new resources to fund our communities through philanthropy and social and venture investment worldwide. I am finishing up an article that will continue our research documenting the history and power of Black giving since ancient times and throughout the world, so that it will be easier for us to teach our children and new generations about Black giving worlds. And although she cannot be with us today, one of our honorees is Ariane Simone, the co-founder of the Fearless Fund and Foundation. And we all know that at this time, certain forces in the US in particular have specifically targeted Black women for our culture, our history of pooling our resources despite slavery, despite colonialism, despite sexism. We find money, we pool our resources, we funded the abolition movement, we funded the liberation movement, we funded the women's movement, we created innovations in finance that we saw just in the past month as those 44,000 Black women came together to fund Kamala Harris's campaign. That approach is now being replicated by various population-based fundraising efforts throughout the US. I want us to please remember that our philanthropy is not just about money. It is about innovation. We have an actual culture of philanthropy that defines us as Black people, and specifically Black women. When they attack our right to pool our resources, they are attacking our people. They are attacking our identity as women. They are attacking our leadership. They know that our giving, that our finance culture is powerful. That is why they are organizing to destroy it. And we won't let them, because this is not the first time in our history that this has happened. I echo all of the honorees who said that this is the time to double down, to do what we do well, even more intensely, knowing that it benefits not just our community, but this is an all hands on deck moment for an imploding planet. And Black women and Black funders, no matter where you were born, no matter whether you come from humble or well-educated or wealthy circumstances, that this world cannot do well without our ingenuity and our love for humanity. I want us to remember that we always talk about it, and it's true. Philanthropy is love of humanity. And I always say that it really includes Black people, but it also includes Black women. And in a world that sometimes hates us and does not show us the love, we have to radically love ourselves. We have to share our resources. Struggling nonprofit, you have $5, share it with another nonprofit. I learned from one, her name is Sahai Wadago, and she's actually, last year, she was a Reunity Black Giving, Black Women Gives Back awardee. And she taught me a really powerful Ethiopian proverb. She said that to get apart, the 5 fingers of the hand can do little, but together, the 5 fingers of the hand can slay a lion. Let's remember that we have created new history and new futures before. We can do it again. This is not the worst time in our history, as difficult as it is. And you are chosen to do this work. And building on our traditions of mutual aid and support, and practicing the inclusion that we always ask that society share with us. We are rich. We have abundant resources. This has been a labor of love for me. I continue to love every leader that gives their time, talent, and treasure for the benefit of humanity. I honor all of you. I honor all of our sponsors, our Global Council, our partners, and everyone else who is making new histories and new futures for Black giving and our finance cultures today and for eternity. Thank you. So now I'm going to